The Travel Bug Girls have partnered with A Little Nitty, a local yarn shop in Milton, Washington, to create some incredible trips that you are going to love. Each trip is designed to check all the boxes for yarn and fiber lovers who want to take their crafting on the road or the high seas. So grab your favorite yarn and get ready to pack your bags. We have Nitty Adventures coming in May, August, and October of 2025. To find out more, visit travelbuggirls.com/nitty-adventures. Welcome to the Travel Bug Girls podcast, the show where we dive into the world of travel, exploring everything from expert tips and insider secrets to unforgettable destinations and the latest trends. Whether you're a seasoned globetrotter or planning your very first adventure, we've got you covered with the advice and inspiration you need to make your travels truly unforgettable. So sit back, relax, and let's take your travel planning to the next level.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Travel Bug Girls podcast. I'm so excited to have everybody with us today. I'm Kimmy, I'm your host, and I have Cassie, Heather, and Tina with me today from the Travel Bug Girls. And today, our title is Never Enough, How Limited Mindset Ruins Travel. So how are you guys doing today? Where have y'all been? Have anybody been anywhere lately?
I was in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge last weekend.
Did y'all have fun? What'd y'all do?
We had a fantastic time. I feel like you can do so much there in such a short period of time. We were there like a day and a half total, and we did so much. They've got a lot of free things right now. The island had like a free dinosaur thing. The boys like that.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what you're into. You know, if you want to go hike and bike and park stuff, they have a lot of that there. But we have some favorites that we do each time, and then we usually try to pick something new to try. So we tried the Sky Flyer this time. I think I posted that, and it was really good. We really enjoyed it.
Cool. So what about you, Tina?
The last time that I was on vacation, I was teaching. So it was kind of a teaching vacation. I'm not sure if I've talked about that yet in here, but I'm a yoga instructor as well. And I went to Cancun, to the Breathless Cancun Soul, and I taught each morning and then spent the rest of the time with my husband. We didn't leave the resort that entire week. We had wonderful food. They had like 5 or 6 different restaurants. We ate at all of them except for the Mexican restaurant because, well, I live in Texas, so and we don't need to. The buffet had some Mexican stuff on it. I think that's the only one we didn't go to. Maybe the seafood restaurant, because a lot of the restaurants had different seafood options, so we had it there. But here I am talking about food. But the yoga experience was neat because you had people from all over, and it was interesting to see how some people vacation as far as they work out during vacation. And even though I was there to teach yoga, I was almost surprised that people were working out. So it was a neat experience.
That sounds very cool. And of course, you talk about the food because we all know that we love talking about food. We love the food.
The thing we share in common.
Yep. How about you, Heather? Where have you been?
My family took a cruise to celebrate our youngest daughter's graduation from college and her 21st birthday. So those all happened within a week of each other. So we took a cruise.
Going on a cruise reminds me of what's in the news right now everywhere, or everybody's talking about, and that is the new Netflix.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Cruise Netflix documentary.
Cruise.
Have y'all watched that yet? I have not, but I really want to watch it.
That scares me. Like, I don't know if I want to see that or not, because I feel like I would fixate on that if I was going.
Yeah, I know it really turned some people off before, like back when it happened. My sister knew someone that on that cruise, I feel like, when it happened. Yeah.
Oh.
So
And I think
it was a freak accident. It was not a normal situation.
It really was.
I think the fact that they had to make a whole documentary on it is a good thing because it is so rare that something like this could happen. If you've ever been on the behind the scene things that you can take while you're on different cruises where you can go back and look at different things, for sure. It is a big production, and usually things are more set out that than, this doesn't have to happen. So I haven't watched it yet. I have somebody who just left, a client who just left on a cruise talking about the Bahamas. I think they're going into the similar areas, and I'm just so excited because it's their first cruise, and I'm so excited to hear what it was like when they get back.
Yeah, that's such a great point, though. Like, the fact that they made a documentary just shows you how like unusual it is that this crazy thing would happen. So like, I don't think anybody in the travel world needs to be worried that there will ever be a poop cruise repeat.
I think all the cruise lines probably learned from that experience and have their own strategy sessions about how to never let that happen to them. So
yeah,
right, because that's something that's out of your control.
To the Bahamas and had a good time, and it was beautiful. We had beautiful weather and got to spend some time together. It was amazing.
Fun. So
we're going to talk probably a little bit about things that are out of your control today, but that's out of your control. You cannot plan for things like this. Life is lifing, as I've
yes.
Life is lifing, and there are things that come up, and you have to have an idea of how you deal with regular life, and that includes going on vacation.
Yeah, that is actually the perfect lead into what we're going to talk about today. So talking about limited mindset. I recently interviewed my daughter for the podcast. She had gone on a 3-week travel abroad or study abroad with her school, and she was telling me how one of like an issue that they consistently had was like drama as far as like when they would go out somewhere as a group, that like a lot of times they would end up fighting over where they were going to go and what they were going to do. And so she's like, I just got to the point where if people started fighting over what we were going to do, like I would just go off and do my own thing and not even. And I thought that's a perfect example of like getting caught up in a small mindset in the moment of I want this to happen my way, when like if, her point was like, if we were deciding between two things, well, by the time everybody got done fighting and decided to do one of the things, we could have done both if there wouldn't have been, fighting. So like opening up your mind and realizing, okay, we have time for both, or we can make room for both things instead of getting so like caught up in this moment. And also we're here in this amazing, beautiful country. And why would we waste time fighting when we can be enjoying what's around us? So I think that's just a little example. So we're going to talk about, let's just talk about what is limited mindset in travel. I've got like 3 kind of categories that we're going to talk about, but what do you guys think of when you think of limited mindset in travel?
I think the one I think of most often is people worrying that they're going to miss out on something, fear of missing out, that they try to plan everything into a short amount of time because they feel like if they miss one thing, then somehow they've had less of a vacation. So they can end up ruining their vacation planning too many things.
I would agree, certainly, with Disney and things. I think people limit their mindset and they don't do any sort of research on their own. And they're like, well, so-and-so did all of these things and that's what I want to do. So, instead of researching what would be best and what would be best for your family, they really just sell themselves short by going with somebody else's, because it looks good on TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point.
I think having not just unrealistic expectations, but having expectations almost at all. Because when you have a decision of what this travel is going to be, and that's, life is lifing, that's not the way it's going to work. You lose, you're not in that moment. The yogi and me talking about, you're not in the moment. You're thinking about, I did all of this planning so that it would be this way. And then you're thinking, well, when I get home, I'm not going to be able to tell people grateful that I actually made it to X thing rather than being right there in this moment, kind of like you said, Kimmy, with your daughter's friends. Rather than being right in the moment, they're taking it out of it. So, and then they're trying to do all of the things. I think that was already said, but I was thinking about the bride who wants to have the perfect wedding. I think that, there's the bridezilla, which there's got to be a groomzilla too. I know that there is, but there needs to be a term for a travelzilla.
Yeah.
I think we've said it before, the once in a lifetime trippers, that they start out the conversation with, this is a once in a lifetime trip. I think you're already setting yourself up for failure. If you utter the words once in a lifetime, your expectations are already too high for what a human being can accomplish in any amount of time. If it's 2 weeks in Europe and this is a once in a lifetime trip and I'm never doing this again, that's all you're going to think about during the whole trip. It's what I didn't get to do because I'll never be back there again.
Yeah.
And also, so often we've talked about, amongst ourselves anyway, that's often not true. And if it is true, it's because you've decided it's true. Like, it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be the only time you ever get to go there. There's very few cases where it has to be true. So, and I think it's a shame. It's a shame when you limit yourself that way.
Yeah. So let's start out talking about the first one that I have is the checklist traveler. So this is a person that they have got their list of famous places that they need to see, and they have crammed 25 into a 5-hour period, and they're just like, I gotta get this. They're like rushing through without actually taking the time to experience. They're like clicking the picture just so they can say they went there. They're doing all the like trendy or popular spots and not getting out of, the trendy areas. What do y'all see as far as like the checklist traveler?
I will say not all checklists are bad, because I feel like I am the checklist traveler. I print off a physical list. Like, I print off a physical list. I got a book with me of what I intend to do while I'm there. But I will say the checklist traveler needs to also be especially if you have kids. Like, I'll just put that disclaimer, especially, but not just with kids, with even adults in your party. You can't plan for illness. You can't plan for, if something's closed, you're there on a Tuesday, and for whatever reason it's closed on a Tuesday, you can't plan for that all the time. So you need to not be so set in the checklist is it. Like you said, you also need to see if that's even something you're interested in. I mean, of course, we've talked about just in our group, laughingly going to see the Mona Lisa, throw up some peace signs. I'm not an art enthusiast, but I got to see the Mona Lisa when I go to Paris. And my husband's like, I don't even care if we go to the Louvre. Yeah. But I do think some of that is, expected with travel. And then some things are just completely, you have to be flexible. Everybody has to be flexible. That's probably what I'm trying to get at.
Flexibility definitely helps. I think, too, this thing that you can run into with this kind of traveling is exhaustion. Just straight up exhaustion. You're so tired that now everybody's grumpy and irritable, and somebody's feet hurt, and you really just want to rest. And you're starting to think as the week goes on, like, we're running out of time and I got to go to work on Monday and I'm so exhausted. It can compound itself. That stress can then start to take over. That mindset can become the prevailing, and now you've got a complete riot on your hands. Anarchy, right? Because now nobody wants to follow the checklist, and the person with the checklist is now the enemy. So it can get out of hand if you don't plan in time to rest, time to like sit and appreciate where you are. Most of the places we're traveling to are beautiful. They're gorgeous. But if you're like, go, because we got to get it all done, then you miss that opportunity to sit and really appreciate the beauty of everything around you, the culture you're sitting in the middle of. You've got to plan in time for that.
Yeah, I think when you become like you said, a checklist isn't bad. And you really do need like some sort of organization, some sort of outline, a plan. You've got to have a plan. especially if you're going to somewhere like Europe or whatever, even somewhere over here, but if somewhere you've never been before, you want to have a plan of things you want to see. That's not what we're not saying like don't have a plan, but I think what we're saying is don't be so married to the plan that if something goes not according to plan or something comes up and you have an opportunity to do something that's not on the checklist, that you are able to say, okay, we're going to live in this moment and we're going to take advantage of this opportunity, or, oh, this is closed, I didn't realize, we're going to pivot and do something else. But it doesn't like destroy the whole trip, because you can get so married to that checklist that if one thing doesn't get checked off, then you're like, well, that was the worst experience ever, it ruins everything. And that is definitely not the ideal travel experience for anybody.
Yeah, agreed. And planning to come another time could be a solution too. I mean, obviously that's not the case for every trip or every person involved. But for example, when I'm dealing with clients who are going to Europe and they're like, this is our first time in Paris and we want to see everything, and we're thinking next year we're going to, go to London, then that gives me an opportunity to always say, hey, maybe next year when you go to London, you get to do these two things in Paris before you go on to London. So you don't have to feel like you have to see everything the very first time, because those places are close enough. You can do two cities in one, or same with London and Edinburgh, right? You can always fly into one of those major hub cities and see one or two things and then go on with the trip to the next place. And so, that's something to think about. If you're going to Mexico, it's the same. I'm going to Mexico, but I probably want to go to a different resort in Mexico in a couple of years. So then you don't have to feel like you have to see everything in that region the first time. Go and see one or two things, enjoy your resort. And then next time you're in the area, you can stay at a different resort if you want and explore a different kind of vacation vibe and see a different site while you're there. So letting yourself have the freedom to plan another trip in the future can make you enjoy the one you're on more.
And even if it's hard for you to get out of the mindset that this is going to be the only time you're going to be at this place, then if you are just writing a checklist of all the things, that doesn't allow you to make priorities. So if you have your own priorities of what is the why for this trip? What is the real why for this trip? Then you're not just creating a checklist to create a checklist. You're creating a thoughtful, mindful checklist that is going toward the whole goal of your trip for that time. And then that way, you may not look over things that you may have looked at when you're just like, oh, I need to go here, here, and here. And, if you don't have a travel agent who says, oh yeah, those are like away from, that's like miles and miles away from each other. And that's not going to work. So you can go back to your priorities. I think I've talked a little bit about, I had a potential client who was saying, oh, I would love to go to Barcelona and the Canary Islands, but she wanted to do it in the same trip, but only wanted to have the trip be a total of, a certain amount of days. And it wasn't going to give her time to really experience either. So, it's just things like that. If you have your priorities really laid out, that helps your mindset of keeping your focus. And in yoga, we say, keeping your drishti, keeping your focus on one thing, one idea.
I think that kind of speaks to like quality experience over quantity experience. I know, Heather, you've talked about for like getting out and experiencing like a small local restaurant where the owner comes out and talks to you and sits down with you and you have the whole experience. Like that kind of quality experience is really going to stay with you a lot more than just running, darting, oh, I gotta eat here, I gotta eat here, so I think quality experiences over a quantity experience is probably a good kind of, what would you call it, like baseline or way of prioritizing.
Yeah, I definitely think it also makes it more interesting later when you're thinking back on that experience, when you're talking about it with other people, when you're sharing your travel experiences. Everyone that's been to Paris might be able to say, we went to the Eiffel Tower, but not everyone's going to be able to say, we sat at this restaurant next to the Sen, and we met the owner, and they told us the entire history of the building. And then they brought us these dishes that were handmade, or we went to a cooking class, and this pastry chef who trained at the Cordon Bleu taught us how to make croissants from scratch. And we had the best time, and we listened to music, and we laughed, and we drank wine while we were making pastries in her kitchen in an apartment in Paris. Like, those stories are different than everyone being like, I went to the Louvre, I went to the Eiffel Tower. Like, yeah, everybody on the planet that's been to Paris did those things, right? And so if you have something that's a little more experiential, then it makes it stand out. And that I think leads into this other idea of, like, when we're comparing our vacations to the Instagram perfect, that's another kind of character that is often focusing on that limiting mindset of, like, mine has to look like everyone else's. It has to be perfect like everyone else's. I have to get the perfect picture. It has to be just right. Otherwise, I somehow failed at this vacation, right? Unless you're getting paid as an influencer, there's basically, or like a travel photographer, there's basically no reason for that to be your measurement of success for your vacation. We all want gorgeous photos. We all want to look like models and movie stars on vacation. We do. Let's be real. But I'm not going to plan my entire vacation around that. And if that's what you're doing, girlfriend, I want to talk to you as a friend and say, let's come up with some other criteria to make sure that when this is over, you really were thrilled, even if it rained that day, even if your hair didn't do what you wanted it to do, right? No matter what happened with your photos, I want you to be able to tell a story that says, I saw the world and it was beautiful. And that really matters more. And also the experience of, like, if you're sharing that with another person, like, prioritizing what's happening between the two of you or the group is also valuable. There's so much more to a vacation or a journey or a trip than just our photos. And I think it's hard in this day and age for us to keep that in mind. It's something that we as friends and family members need to remind the people we love about, but also as travel agents, I find myself really wanting, sure, I'll give you tips on where to stand to get the best photo in front of the Eiffel Tower. Absolutely. But I want you more than that to go home and say, oh my goodness, I had no idea France could be so incredible, right? And I want you to have a deeper story about it. And I want you to be able to come home and say, that trip changed my life in this way, and I can't wait to go on the next vacation.
I think a lot of times, if we can think back on trips that we've taken, I think the most memorable parts of the trips usually are the parts that you look back fondly are things that are unprompted, like you didn't plan for. For instance, like back to the checklist, Disney is, of course, I'm always thinking, where are we going? Where's the next lightning lane? Well, we went back in April in spring break, and we were doing great, and we were ahead of the crowds. And my oldest son loves to go to try to pull the sword out of the stone. If anybody knows what that is, it's right in front of the carousel. They go, it doesn't come all the way out if they pull it out. He's 10 years old. He's been trying to pull the sword out of the stone since he was 2. So I'm placing a mobile order to get some lunch because my baby's like, right on the verge of, we had lunch reservations at a nice place. We were not going to be able to make it an hour and a half to wait on those reservations. So here I was in the app doing the things. So my son goes up there. I'm messing with the baby in the stroller, like he's wanting to get out and do it next, not paying attention. He pulls the sword out of the stone. 10 years we've been trying to pull the sword out. He pulls it out. I didn't even see it. I didn't even see him pull the sword out of the stone, folks. But I did see the aftermath, which was magical. I mean, he was so thrilled. Just a PSA, I also did not buy the Memory Maker package because we were just down there for a quick trip. Don't wait till you're there to buy the Memory Maker package. But he pulled the sword out of the stone. They sold me a $200 photo package because it was just pure magic.
They knew you hadn't bought it.
They did. And the little lady was so nice. And like, he got a sticker and it was a big deal. Like, everybody was high-fiving. And then, of course, my baby gets up there and then he can't pull the sword out of the stone because, not everybody does. But he was happy for his brother, for him pulling the sword out of the stone. That was a moment, like, that wasn't on my checklist, like, try to pull the sword out of the stone. We always know if we're over through there, he'll run by, try to pull it out or whatever. But it was something. And every time that we've been at Disney, there's been some sort of instance like that I had not planned. And so I will say, take the time to, like, I know I stress majorly about everything at Disney's like in the app. You got to do it in the app. You got to book your lightning lanes. You have to do your mobile. You have to mobile order your food. Like everything's like in the. So it's very easy to get pulled in your phone. And I don't like that. I don't like on vacation to be in my phone, and I do make a point to put it down. But I am the booker and the doer, so somebody's got to do it. My husband saw the whole thing, like he thought it was great, but definitely magic moments happen when you're least expecting them. So
that's a good point, Cassie, about not being in your phone the whole time. I think that's another problem we're all struggling with now on vacation, and some places do make it harder than others, where you have to be using your map or you have to be using the app, right? On a cruise, a lot of cruise lines now have their app that you're using to book your dinner reservations and see what's coming up on the shows next. And, where's that party that I heard about? What deck is it on? Like, there's a lot of times when we're having to be tethered to that phone when, past generations, like maybe they had a camera, but basically they were living it together, and the phone wasn't a part of their trip, And so now, not only do we have this pressure to have the perfect photos and videos, and as travel agents, that goes triple. Like, it's also part of our work that we got to feel like we got to go home with the perfect photos and the perfect videos so we can convince other people to go on that vacation too someday, or like show our clients, hey, look how amazing it was, right? And then that brings in other people too. Other people have work. They're tethered to their phones for work while they're on vacation. This is an epidemic in the US. And, there's just so many layers of it. And then we have, kids that are used to being on their phone for entertainment all day. And now we're expecting them to suddenly not have that problem, not have that obsession just because they're on vacation for a week. And then that can create some tension and frustration when parents are like, we paid all this money for you to be here. Like, stop asking to be on the iPad, right? And it is a huge issue, I think. And we need to be considerate of it when we're making our plans. How are we going to handle this? How are we going to make the most of it? Are we going to make a big deal about it? Is this something that I want to bring along with me? Do I need to schedule some time where the phone is away, or I'm on Do Not Disturb, right? So these are things I think that in general, we need to be thinking about more when we're vacationing. And I have been finding myself scheduling time. Like, I will take pictures at this time on these days when we're in this setting, but on this day, I'm going to snuggle up with my husband, on the beach chairs or whatever. I'm going to bring out a book, or I'm going to take a good long nap, whatever it takes to really make sure I also go home, relax, or prioritizing the things that really matter to me on vacation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you could say, I'm going to get this picture, or, I'm going to be on my phone in this area for 5 minutes trying to get some pictures or get some content. And then I'm putting it away and I'm going to be in the moment. Because there's been times where I've had my phone out and I've been taking pictures or taking videos or whatever of a moment. And then later on, I realized I didn't even experience that moment with my own eyes, because I was watching the moment happen on my phone screen when it's in front of me in real life, but I wasn't looking in front of me. I was looking at my phone screen. So I'm literally experiencing the moment that I'm in secondhand, which is insane. And so I didn't, and I wasn't connected to that moment because I was looking at it through my phone screen, trying to get a video of it. And so I've really, more recently when we've traveled, tried to be purposeful about disconnecting from my phone and being in the moment. Even if I don't get a picture of it, that's fine, because I have the memory, and that is going to carry me through more, and the feeling of being there and appreciating being in that moment, instead of being there live and experiencing it secondhand because I'm not connected.
Right. And I think that that's the one good thing about some places that are kind of touristy is you can have your experience, leave your phone at home, and then there's somebody who you can pay some money to take pictures of you. So it'll trigger your memory, and it may look better than what you would take it yourself. My stepbrother and his wife, every time they go on a cruise, they get one of those photos taken on the beach, the whole thing. That's their their thing. They like to do that. And then the rest of the time, their Facebook's not filled up with all the things that they were doing. They just enjoyed it. And I know I went on an excursion during a cruise once, and I was a little upset because they're like, we really don't recommend you taking your phones, because we were taking a inner tube in these underwater caves, and it's underwater unless you have really good equipment. And then, if you lose your phone, then it's a bad thing, and it hurts the environment and all the things. And so we got to experience that. Didn't have to worry about losing a phone, because, you don't have it with you, and you could just be there in the moment. And then they took pictures of us when we were carrying our inner tubes, before we went on the short little hike to get to the entrance of the cave. And that picture, it's ridiculous because we had to wear a hard hat. My swimsuit didn't fit. It was like falling apart. And I have, the life vest on and everything, but we were so happy. It's like, I look dorky, but I don't care. I'm happy.
Love that.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Travel Bug Girls podcast. Be sure to subscribe to get our new episodes every week. We'd love to connect with you on social media. Share your answer to this week's podcast question with us at facebook.com/travelbuggirls. You can find us on your favorite social media by using @TravelBugGirls. Want to join our VIP group? You'll find us on Facebook groups under TBG Travel Bugs. Learn more about the Travel Bug Girls and what we do on our website at travelbuggirls.com. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and safe travels. Are you ready to be in the room where it happens? Next spring, your shot at an unforgettable New York City experience is here. Imagine 4 incredible nights in the heart of Times Square, exploring iconic landmarks from Greenwich Village to Wall Street. Picture yourself gazing up at Lady Liberty and reflecting at the powerful 9/11 memorial. But that's not all. This isn't just any trip. It's your chance to witness the revolutionary energy of 2 Broadway shows, including the one you've been waiting for, Hamilton. We're taking care of everything. Round-trip flights from Dallas or your closest airport, comfortable hotel transfers, 5 delicious meals, and easy transportation throughout the city are all included. Don't throw away your shot. Visit TravelBugGirls.com to book your Broadway dream trip today. That's TravelBugGirls.com. Be a part of history. Experience New York City and the magic of Hamilton.